In this session, we will cover the many-to-many relationship in OutSystems. We will start by defining this type of relationship, and then we will learn how to create a many-to-many relationship in OutSystems, with a quick demo in Service Studio. Let's start by considering this example data model, with the order entity and the product entity. In this scenario, we know that a single order can have multiple products, and that the same product can be part of many orders. This makes this scenario a perfect example of a many-to-many relationship. To represent a many-to-many relationship, we need an additional entity, which we call junction entity. In this particular example, we have the order product entity. This entity was created with the purpose of representing the many-to-many relationship between the order and the product. This new entity has its own ID and two reference attributes, one per entity that is part of the many-to-many relationship. In this example, the order product entity has an order ID attribute of type order identifier, to reference the order entity, and a product ID attribute of type product identifier, to reference the product entity. The many-to-many relationship is then created by setting the data types of these two attributes to be entity identifier. This junction entity has its own identifier attribute, which is independent from the identifier attributes of the other entities. Also, it can have other attributes if needed, like the quantity. Let's see how we can easily create this relationship in Service Studio. Here we are in Service Studio, with our module open, and in the Data tab. We can see the order entity and all its attributes. And also the product entity and all its attributes. To create a many-to-many relationship between the orders and the products, we need to create a new entity. This new entity will define the relationship between the order and the product entities. Let's start by creating the new entity. Right-click on the Database section and select Add Entity. Let's call the entity Order Product. To create the many-to-many relationship, we need to add a reference attribute per each entity in the relationship. Let's start by the order. Right-click on the Order Product entity. And select the Add Entity Attribute option. We can now set the name to Order ID. The data type is set automatically to Order Identifier. Now, we need to repeat the process and add a new reference attribute for the product. Right-click on the Order Product entity again. And select the Add Entity Attribute option. We will set its name to Product ID. And the data type is set automatically to Product Identifier. Now we have the relationship created between the order and the product. To complete the entity, we will just add an attribute for quantity. To see a visual representation of the relationship, we can drag the order product entity to the diagram on the left. As we can see, the order product has the junction entity between the order and the product, defining then the many-to-many relationship. As a summary, the many-to-many relationship is defined by a new entity, with its own unique ID, and one reference attribute for each entity that is part of the relationship. These two reference attributes have as data type entity identifier, with the entity here being the one they particularly reference. To avoid duplicate records in this new entity, it may be useful to create an unique index with both reference attributes. This way, it would never be possible to add two records to order product, with the same combination of order ID and product ID. And this is how we can define many-to-many relationships in OutSystems.